What's the mug, Bart?
Today it just says, but first coffee.
Ah, okay. So he's
beautiful.
Cheers, Jarrett.
Right on.
Cheers, buddy. Good morning.
So, we brought Bart in, and so Bart, before we get into like actual topics, what is your rule on the 5-second rule? Since that was opening kickoff this morning, what is your rule on the 5-second rule?
I think 5 seconds can be extended depending on the surface that it lands on and the type of food that falls.
Okay.
Yeah,
because
that's fine with me.
That was kind of where I was getting into because of this morning's breakfast accident. And I
Good
was,
way to phrase it.
Well, I mean, it literally was me going all Wendell Tyler, and that's your Google search. That's your Google search for the morning, kids. When it came to the breakfast blueberry muffin, you take off a section and then the rest of it just kind of falls away. And you're going,
is this the same kind of blueberry muffin you got from Walmart? Because there was that time a year, man, that was 2 years ago, I think.
The game
because I remember this episode. We were doing the show. I went out to get my second COVID vaccine. Is that I was howling in line and getting looked at like I was crazy because you were talking about like picking up muffins from Walmart. And Mike Conti jumped on the show to tell you don't have to live that way. Nick Levy jumped on the show to tell you didn't have to live that way. Like basically the entire SDH universe had an intervention for you.
Well, it didn't work.
I doubt it. Yeah, I wouldn't expect.
But how many times have we had food-related interventions with John and it just hasn't worked? So,
well, all of them.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, it is a gamey muffin callback. Yeah. Yes. Well, no, it wasn't gamey because it was below the expiration date. So, OG, it was not a gamey muffin. We're in good shape.
Traditional. Hey, you know what? When it's expired, just think of that as extra probiotics.
So
there you go.
It's all good. So, Jarrett and I are here, Bart, to ask questions about the women's national team.
Yeah,
and anything else on your mind, because we must promote the Soccer for Us pod and the Soccer for US pod, however you wish to promote it. Going back to the last match, now that you've had a couple days to look at it, VAR either included or excluded from the conversation.
They're still mad about 1776.
True.
Yeah, that was what it was.
Absolutely. So some of your takeaways from the match against the Lionesses, sir.
Well, not only was it England mad at us, but VAR and the referee crew was German, so I don't think they have a lot of things to be happy with us about either. So clearly there was a conspiracy theory.
Yes.
No, I thought actually I was impressed with the way the team responded to adversity during the game. Obviously having a goal taken away, a pretty legitimate goal taken away, and a goal given to you via a goal given to the other team via a penalty kick that I'm not mad that it got called. Like, had that been called in real time, then yeah, I think using VAR to go look back at that and then also to not use VAR to look at other instances throughout the match was a little fishy. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a really good test for the team that hasn't really been tested in this way. The biggest test we've had since the Olympics last summer was probably going to Australia last November against a team that really isn't the quality that they have been.
It's Sam Kerr and who else?
Yeah, exactly.
They're better than most of us will ever dream of being, but
no, you're exactly right. So this is a team in England that is very, very, very good, and I don't think it's unfair to say the best team playing women's international soccer right now. I think that's a fair statement. I mean, especially when you get them at home in front of what was almost 80,000 people, that's a really tough place and a really tough environment. And I thought the team responded well. I thought the first goal was super fluky. I thought Alana Cook defended well. She had it cut off. It just unfortunately didn't bounce or slide or deflect the way that it should have. And goes right to an England player, and Alyssa Nair couldn't respond quick enough. But those are the types of goals that happen in a World Cup that you have to respond to. And we did. We got a goal pretty quick after that. So I thought overall, I wasn't I can't be mad at how we played. I thought we played pretty well. I thought that the more important thing for me was we learned things about this team that can both be improved upon, and things that we can kind of shift away from. For example, I thought for the first time we really saw the U.S. pressing a team high up the field. Now we haven't been able to see that because what teams have we played that we've been able to press high up the field?
Can't press a team down on the ball.
Yeah, or it was just too easy, or they weren't able to pass the ball with each other anyway. I thought that that was a really positive thing that I took from this match, is that we are, when we want to, able to press the team high up the field. And I think that we created, I mean, the goal we scored, the Lindsey Horan pressure, slips it to Sophia Smith, and we're in on goal. That was good. I thought that, for the most part, we created a lot of good chances that way. And that was my goal coming into the match, was find a way to score other than just crossing the ball into the box. And we did that on both of our goals, really. I mean, I know the second goal was technically a cross into the box, but that's not the same as like get it wide and lump it in. Yeah. So I thought that that was a positive. I thought what we also learned, though, was maybe this midfield configuration of Sullivan, Horan, and Lavelle, though I think they might be the three best midfielders you have at their respective positions, don't necessarily complement each other very well. And I think that I would like to see a different midfield this game. I'm not blaming any one player in particular. I think it's just the combination of the three doesn't really work together. You've got Lavelle and Horan, who tend to be a little more positionally unhinged, if you will, and definitely attack minded. And you've got an Andy Sullivan who, no matter how much we can ask her to, is not going to be the Julie Ertz ability to just kind of close ground whenever needed. So I don't know. I kind of would like to see just either a different formation from a midfield or a different combination of three players today. But overall, I thought that you could look at this game and say, I thought we played pretty well. I know some people look at possession stats and think that we got dominated. I don't think that's what it was at all. I thought that the team, again, played well, responded to adversity well, and at the end of the day, you had positives and negatives that you can improve upon going forward, and you needed that again.
Nix is in this morning, and he's asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your Vlatko confidence level? His is not high. The team has fallen off, and more importantly, really the rest of the world, Europe especially, has moved forward significantly. He thinks England, Spain, the Netherlands, and Sweden can all beat us these days.
Spain can't beat us. Spain can't even get past the first round of a knockout tournament. Sorry. Like, I'm tired of the Spain hype crap. Sorry, Jason. I'm going off on not you, but like the entire world. Everyone keeps telling me how great Spain is.
It's not your fault. It's the world's fault.
I know. It's everyone keeps telling me how great Spain is. And granted, we can very much attribute their lack of success to a coach who clearly hasn't created a great culture there and doesn't really know how to get them to win. But how many times, I mean, it took the best assimilation of Spanish men's footballing talent to win a World Cup and a European Cup, right? Or Euro Championship. The way Spain plays soccer is very easily beaten. And the way that the women's team plays is very similar to the way the men's team plays. And I'm not sure. Look, I'm not saying they're a bad team. Like, we played them today. They're a very good team. They have very good players on their team. But I'm sorry, I don't buy the Spain hype. But to the point of your question, I'm at a 7 with Vlatko. I think Vlatko has a tough task on his hand to usher in a brand new generation of players, many of whom hadn't really been part of this team before this. He's losing some very incredibly important players, and you have some players on this team who are unfortunately on the back ends of their careers. I mean, yeah, it's very valid that our defense looks a little disorganized without Becky Sauerbrunn back there. She's a fantastic leader and a fantastic center back. She's also on the wrong side of 35 and not as fast as she used to be, also coming off a knee injury. That is a problem that Vlatko can't fix. I mean, I think that you have Cook and Gurma playing a lot of minutes, and that's good. The other problem is you don't have Tierna Davidson, who was the heir apparent to Sauerbrunn, and you have an Abby Dalcombe not playing particularly well either right now, and also kind of hurt. So I think he's doing a decent enough job of kind of figuring out that transition period between a look, again, I'm going to say it, probably the greatest generation of soccer talent ever. I mean, you made 3 World Cup finals in a row. Name another country that's done that. That is an incredible feat. So, like, of course, you're not, like, I'm sorry, not every team, every player is going to be as good as the collection of Heath, Press, Pino, Morgan. It's the unfortunate reality. But I think he's managing it okay. I think his tactics still a question. I'm wondering where his tactical identity is coming from, because it does seem to be a lot of get it wide and put it into the box. But I'm confident that he'll figure it out, because I think that, again, the players eventually will just figure it out, because they'll continue to get more reps at the international level, get more comfortable playing with each other, and figure out how they can perform best to make this team its best.
So this is a question I've had since 2019, was at what point do you have to bite the bullet and realize that this great generation is running out of steam? And I thought 2019 would be their last hurrah, and they would actually have to start making those changes in 2019. Now, they managed to kick the can down the road successfully, won a World Cup, when I didn't think they'd be able to. But it kind of feels like it's kind of fallen on him now, and it kind of feels like we are playing hot potato, and he has been left with the hot potato of an aging roster that is still good but can't get it done. Whereas I thought Jill Ellis would have to be the one holding that hot potato, which she wasn't.
Yeah, I think, and that's exactly it, is you have, again, probably the greatest generation of soccer players to come together from that 2011 to 2019 World Cups. And right now, they're just not as good as they used to be, because Father Time is undefeated, or Mother Time, whatever you want to use.
Father Time and Mother Nature.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, even to the extent of, like, Kristen Press obviously is a fantastic player out with a knee injury. Tobin Heath and Julie Ertz probably not ever suiting up for this women's national team ever again. Is just the sad reality. We didn't really bring in new blood quick enough. And I do fault Vlatko a little bit, because you had an opportunity with the delayed Olympics to find new players. However, finding and scouting players during COVID times, not exactly easy. But I do want to go back to kind of what Jason Nick said about the rest of the world catching up. Like, y'all say that like that's a negative, like, it's a positive that England, Spain, all these traditionally good countries that aren't Germany and the Scandinavian countries are finally investing in women's football and developing women's football players. I think I said it last time. I think the Women's Super League is probably the best overall league. I would put NWSL up there as well. But, you look at a lot of these women who played on the English national team playing in England for very, very good teams. That's a positive. And I don't think it's a bad thing that the rest of the more developed, quote, footballing world is starting to catch up to what the U.S. had done, because it was a little bit weird that we were dominant as you were for those 12 years in a row.
So, and sorry, John.
No, you're good.
So you bring up a player who is kind of an enigma for me, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is opinion based, Kristen Press in any other generation is your anchor, and she just had the misfortune of existing in the wrong generation for the national team. Like, she existed in a generation of young Sydney Leroux, when Sydney Leroux was the super sub to end all super subs, and Alex Morgan, the tail end of Abby Wambach. She picked the worst time to be a U.S. national team striker. So I feel like Kristen Press would have been that player any other generation, including this one. If she was 24 years old now, oh my God.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because I also think she could be really influential on this team right now had she not gotten hurt, because of her overall quality on the ball and her way to see the game from more than just a get the ball and go fast type of thing, which I do fault a little bit. Sophia Smith and Mal Pugh, they're a little bit get the ball, go fast type players, which is fine. They're really effective at that. But, Press was the best of speed plus the Pino type of, technical player. able to beat a player 1v1 with skill, but also get by them with speed and get them behind a defense. And I still think she would have been really effective on this team had she been healthy. Yeah, man, Kristen Press was. It's so funny because like then she was behind Pino, she's behind Tobin Heath, she's behind Alex Morgan, like she's behind all these like top level players, but she herself is a top level player.
It's like Steve Young with Joe Montana.
Yeah,
you're waiting for that moment for Steve Young forever and forever and forever and forever. You were waiting for that opportunity.
A little bit, yeah.
When it comes to Spain, this has been a situation that I know a lot of folks have been kind of getting the greatest hits on.
Yeah.
For those that don't know what's been going on with the Spanish national team coming into this match today, there's going to be a lot of subtext and subplot that's attached to it. Break it down for folks that don't know what in the wide world of sports is going on over there right now.
So the best thing I can say is Spain is also dealing with a little bit of their own
madness,
believe women type of movement, right? Whereas the U.S. is dealing with it from a very sexual predator nature. Spain is dealing with it from a coach and a federation that is not truly supporting the women's national team the way it needs to be supported. You know, the coach Villalba is Vilda, sorry, wrong coach, has been accused basically of creating a toxic environment within the team, being mentally and emotionally. I'm not going to go as far as say as abusive, because I don't know if that word was necessarily used, but definitely harmful toward players. And a lot of the players, 15 particularly, who are top quality players for the Spanish women's national team, have said that they're not playing for him anymore, basically. The Spanish Federation has responded by saying, y'all don't run this federation. Y'all don't get to pick the coach. Deal with it. And, you know, there are going to be players on this team that, for lack of a better word, are going to be scabs. And I don't blame them, because they're also looking for a chance to better their career. And therein lies the problem right now with women's soccer, unfortunately, is that they're still, it's still underfunded. Players are still underpaid. And when you have an opportunity to play for the Spanish women's national team, you're going to take it because it's money in your pocket and it's a chance to further your career. So the subtext is that Spain is dealing with a coach in Jorge Vilda that is not well liked by the team, very well liked by the federation, because he's the son of president or former president. And it kind of feels for the women that they don't really have a voice other than to say we're not playing. And it's unfortunate because, as I said, I think Spain is a great collection of women's soccer players. They have some fantastic players. Alexis Putellas, who obviously is still dealing with a knee injury, but like she's there's a reason she's considered the best soccer player in the world. She is. It sucks that this matchup, which could have been two very important tests for this team, the U.S. women's team, both England and Spain, has now kind of turned into another of the, well, is this really a true test for this team? Kind of a weak opponent. And all I'll say to kind of sum up is that federations have to understand that you have to treat the women's program like you would the men's program. And if you had what you believe to be one of the best teams in the world, I don't think that's unfair. But Spain has not won a knockout round match at a major tournament, Euro or World Cup. They've done it twice in a row where they've gone out in the first round of the knockouts under Vilda. And I think if this were the Spanish national team, the men's national team, he would have been fired, regardless of if he was making people happy, like physically and emotionally happy to come into camp. If he just wasn't getting the results that were expected. And the fact that he continues to be employed is probably really frustrating for the players, because it's not only that they're not being treated well, they're not succeeding, and in their minds, they look at the coach and say, you're the one who's been the constant here.
So legitimately, what kind of a match are you expecting today? And what kind of work are you anticipating the women's national team, meaning the U.S. women's national team, getting done in an environment where Paul Kennedy had the number? Hang on just a second. Of the 11 players who started against eventual champion England at Euro 2022, just 4, 3 from Real Madrid, Carmona, Abellera, and Gonzalez, and 1 from Atletico Madrid, Marta Cardona, are among the players in Vilda's 23-player squad for Tuesday's game. Putellas and Jenny Hermoso sidelined with knee injuries. Legitimately, what kind of a workshop are you looking at for the U.S. team today in this environment against the Spanish side that you have no earthly idea what you're going to get talent-wise?
Well, I think you know what you're going to get from a style of play-wise, right? We know how Spain is going to try to play soccer, and they're going to try to possess the ball. They're going to try to cut you by 1,000, death by 1,000 cuts, right? Yeah. They still very much play that way. They're very technical, and they're very good at passing the ball and moving defenses with the ball. So if I want to go back to what I, again, said was a very big positive was our press, and I think this is another opportunity to apply high pressure against the Spain team that's going to want to possess the ball. Because, again, we just haven't had a whole lot of opportunities against teams to do that. So I would like to continue for us to see improvement or work in the press. I'd also like to see, I think Ashley Sanchez would do really well in this game. High motor player, both very technically gifted, but also loves to play at a quick tempo. And I think that would be a great way to break down the Spain team. I think that sometimes one of the positives I have of Lindsay Horan is that she does kind of, the game comes at like 0.5 speed to her. But that's also a negative because sometimes she plays at 0.5 speed. Yeah. So Sanchez being able to get the ball and create those transition moments a lot quicker, I think would be a fun thing to see. I also think she does a little bit more defensive work than Horan, which will be needed in a game like this. Again, Spain's going to pass the ball in tight spaces, pass the ball in medium passes as well. They're not going to go long as much, but they are going to try to find ways to open you up and find players who are open outside of the cluster that they've created through their passing. So I think for Sanchez, this would be a good game for her. I'd also like to see maybe a little bit more if Sam Coffey can go. That'll be interesting. Again, I don't know if I necessarily think that Sullivan was bad last game. I just think it's more she doesn't work well with the 2 players who are in front of her. So maybe Sam Coffey gets a run out, or maybe it's Sullivan with Sanchez and Lavelle to test that a little bit more if that midfield is what works in the future. The other question we have today is who's going to play left back. Emily Fox is out with concussion. She's in concussion protocol. And that, I know we saw Haley Mace. We also saw Crystal Dunn last game. We brought in Carson Pickett to replace Fox. Pickett played earlier this year as well, and many people think she's a better left back than any of the 3 that has been brought up. So I'm interested to see who plays at left back and how long. I kind of would like to see Crystal Dunn not play left back and actually play in the midfield where she's good at. Not to say that she's not good at left back, but her talents lie in the midfield, and maybe that would be fun to see as you have Lavelle, Dunn, and Sullivan in the midfield instead of Sanchez. That might be interesting. But the big question today is just that left back position for the U.S. because we don't know quite who's going to be playing there. Haley Mace hasn't looked great in that left back position. That's not necessarily all her fault because that's not her most natural position. She plays that for Louisville. She also plays left wing back. She also plays right back. She plays right wing back. She plays left mid. She plays right mid. Like she plays everywhere on the field for Louisville. So versatility is good, but sometimes having an actual home is nice to have as well. It would be nice to see though to have a left back performance that makes you go, oh yeah, there she is.
Yeah. When I looked at the Soccer America ratings for England and USA, it reminded me of when I vote for Emmy submissions. I mean, legitimately, you got 3s, 4s, and 5s, except for Sophia Smith, who got a 6. I mean, here's what you got. Nair had a 5. Sophia Huerta on defense. Sophia Huerta had a 5. Alana Cook had a 3. Naomi Sherman
Cook had a bad game.
Emily Fox got a no rating because of the obvious issue. In the midfield, Andy Sullivan a 4. And to your point on Sullivan, the quote, Sullivan left isolated by Lavelle and Horan in transition moments, forced to cover too much ground.
Yeah.
Horan and Lavelle got 5s. Forwards, Rodman got a 5. Sophia Smith got a 6. Megan Rapinoe got a 4. Subs with subsequent minutes, with substantial minutes, Haley Mace had a 4. Sam Coffey, Crystal Dunn had 5s. Sauerbrunn, Sanchez, and Alyssa Thompson, because they only played less than 10 minutes, got incomplete. Is that too harsh? I always think that Soccer America sometimes comes down on the line of too harsh.
Yeah, I would argue that some of those are a little too harsh. But I also don't think Alana Cook played a very good game. We mentioned the goal that we conceded. The first was really her fault. She also had a lot of other moments that she did not look very good. And that was concerning because Alana Cook is supposed to be, I know she hasn't really played a whole lot for the U.S. before this, but she is a very experienced player. She has experience playing in Europe against a lot of these players that she played against England. So from that standpoint, yeah, I was disappointed with the way that Alana Cook played in what was, to this point, our biggest test. Full offense to Canada, you're just not that good as you are to England. Always full offense to Canada.
Right. Rack, Crystal Dunn's one of the most underappreciated greats of this great generation.
She really is. And I think from a U.S. perspective, we didn't get to see her greatness because she was stuck at left back. But I think that's also a testament, because you think of this U.S. team and they were defensively dominant as much as they were attacking skilled, right? Like, I mean, this defensive team did not give up a lot of goals, and Crystal Dunn was such a vital point of contention for the defense. She was able to win most of her battles 1v1, but also be very influential in the attack, and she allowed us to play a lot of different formations as well, both obviously the standard 4-3-3, but she could shift out wide and help us move into like a 5-2-3-1, whatever she was very fluid in her positioning, but also able to cover her defensive responsibilities. But her talents lie in the midfield, and I would like to see that finally.
Will, it's funny that we're so gifted at female striker while we're so barren at male. What do you think?
I mean, I think we're gifted at every female player. We just have better players on the women's side. I mean, we also have better center backs on the women's side than we do the men's side. Maybe our midfield is better on the men's side. Like a Tyler Adams type midfielder would be great for this women's national team. But like, even as great as we have, I don't think any of our men's midfielders stack up against Rose Lavelle. I mean, so I don't know. Maybe Christian Pulisic is the best that you can offer, but even then, it's like, I don't know.
Okay.
It's hard to compare because we were talking about the number 1 team in the world versus a team that's struggling to break the top 15. So
right. Are you, first off, I'm not kicking you out, but are you back tomorrow for a postmortem?
I can do that tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll see you at 9:30 tomorrow. Philosophical question here. Rack and some other folks have been discussing the women's game on the professional side. And my question for you is somewhat NWSL / Women's Super League based. How do we prevent the exodus that we've seen in years past? Issues from the NWSL aside, because that in and of itself is something that we spent 40 minutes on last time you were here, and we probably could spend another 40 minutes on, considering most recent developments.
Mm-hmm.
How do we prevent the exodus that has been ongoing over, pick your period of time, and keep players at home to build the NWSL? How do we do that?
Well, you pay them more. Yeah, the simple answer is you pay them more, because the reason they're having to go overseas is to continue to get money, right? They're going to Women's Super League. A lot of them go to Australia or other leagues in Europe to collect a paycheck. So if you pay them a little bit more, where they don't have to go elsewhere in their off season, you just have a better opportunity here for them to succeed in NWSL. I also don't think it's necessarily something that's holding NWSL back, that players in their off seasons go to other leagues. Problem sometimes comes from, like, obviously they're not back to join their NWSL club until the Women's Super League season ends, which again, Arsenal top of the league. So, pick an English football league and Arsenal's top of it.
This year.
Always, John, always. But hey, Arsenal women are the most successful women's football club in England. So that's all I'll say. It just comes down to paying them a little bit more so that they don't have to find those opportunities abroad. There should be enough. Going back to a point we had earlier, or I made last week, of there's an opportunity for investors to put their money into this particular sport, women's soccer, and in particular NWSL. You're looking at Merritt Paulson possibly being removed from Portland. The pressure is on him. You're looking at possibly a new owner in Chicago.
Whistler, yeah.
I don't think Louisville will get to that point. I think maybe North Carolina should as well, because I think the malpractice there of hiring Paul Riley was insane. But we're definitely looking at 2 possible new owners that could put some cash into the league. We're also looking at the possibility of people buying into clubs to just boost the money that's there. So you need some investment there. You need some corporate partners as well. We've talked about Budweiser. It's been kind of pressuring NWSL to clean up its act.
Alaska Airlines.
They're essentially out at Portland. They're kind of like, whoa now.
And the fact that they've redirected to help the actual players.
Yeah.
That was by Alaska Airlines.
I appreciate Alaska Airlines using their money to do something that would affect positive change and not just keep the status quo because it benefits them. I think I saw someone mention in the chat, like, we need better crowds. I absolutely agree. I think there's a lot of ways to get better crowds. But also NWSL is relatively young. They're only at like year 10. So thinking about how MLS took forever to build crowds, it is going to take time. But you are seeing several clubs with very good crowds, right? You have good crowds in Seattle, but you have great crowds in Portland, in San Diego, in LA. But then you also look at like North Carolina and Orlando and Houston with just not very good crowds at all. You've got to figure out a way to fix that. But at the same time, you look at Kansas City breaking ground on an entirely women's soccer specific stadium, where they have a soccer specific stadium literally right across the river, but they're building one in Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas, so that is a positive as well. I think it's going to take time because, similar to MLS, the soccer infrastructure in the United States, the professional soccer infrastructure in the United States, is still so far behind anywhere else, right? When you look at the Women's Super League, the reason why it's been able to, in my opinion, become the best women's football league in the world is because you have a lot of really well-run clubs, football clubs, top to bottom in that country, who are able to now invest time, assets, intelligence into their women's side of things. And they've been doing that. You're looking at clubs in Spain starting to do this with Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, actually investing money. You have in France multiple clubs that are getting good investment and also being able to be bolstered by what you've learned from running a men's club for so long. So we don't really have that in the US because we just don't have that professional soccer infrastructure. Again, we want to talk, it ties into, I'm sorry, I'm going to open up this can of worms. It ties in a little bit to the pro-rel argument when everyone wants to talk pro-rel. And it's just like, that sounds great in theory, but our professional structure is just not there yet. So we have USL opening up, they have their W League, which is continuing to improve and become more and more professional each year. You have other lower leagues that are semi-pro to amateur, but becoming a little bit more organized and more professionally run. Those are all positives, and that will make NWSL better, and it will make more people care about NWSL. But y'all, the ratings for NWSL are great. Like, that's the thing, is like, you want to talk about fans in the stands, and that's good. You want people to come to the games, but people are watching consistently. They're watching when it's on CBS Sports or when it's on CBS. That, and John, I think you would agree, especially when we talk about MLS stuff. The gate revenue is great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to have people come to your game. It would be great that we would have 10,000 plus fans at every NWSL game. That would obviously bring in money locally to the teams. But overall, from a league standpoint, having great TV ratings is probably more important. And they obviously just recently signed a deal with CBS and Paramount Plus, but to be able to continue to get more money from your TV deal is going to be more important than getting people to actually physically attend the games. But as you continue to get better and more prominent on TV, I think more people will start coming to the games more. But it just comes down to, you've got to continue to build the momentum you have, and attendance is improving every year as the league progresses.
And I give CBS full credit for not just having the games on Paramount Plus, but for the investment on CBS Sports Network, and for putting them on big CBS, specifically the championship game, and using it as lead-ins occasionally for other product on CBS Network. I give CBS a boatload of credit for doing those kinds of things. And this is something that I have maintained since literally we've come on the air 6 years ago, is that if you have money and you are looking for a growth industry to invest in, then it is soccer. It is men's soccer. It is women's soccer, what have you. And I mean, and I will use Tormenta as my example, because of what we've seen from South Georgia Tormenta with the Van Tassels in USL League One and investing in their W League team on the USL side of things. What happened in its first season? Because they invested, they end up with a star on their chest.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks a lot to what the Van Tassels have seen, what Tormenta as an organization have known, and understanding the larger picture of doing something three-dimensionally. And now you want to talk about growth. It's their own soccer facility. It is their standalone stadium with everything else that's attached that we've seen when it comes to growth in USL League One properties and things like that. I would posit that if you're looking for a growth industry and you've got money to do it, you invest in soccer, and you should be able to see the kind of return. Obviously, it's not going to be instantaneous or anything, but I think that as a growth industry, that's the place to go.
Yeah, I know there's questions about scheduling and TV stuff. So to quickly hit on that, Rack, you have on this weekend, you have the first round of NWSL playoffs. One is on Paramount Plus, one is on CBS Sports Network.
Mm-hmm.
So I know not everyone has CBS Sports Network. I use YouTube TV, and it's on there. I obviously also subscribe to Paramount Plus, and the reason I started subscribing to Paramount Plus was because of the NWSL. And then they said, "Hey, we get Champions League," and that was even better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is an example of why there's growth opportunity. There's ways to get your money, invest your money, see a great return. But also, we don't just want people who are going to try to get money out of the club. We want people who are invested and willing to grow the sport. And I think this is kind of a societal thing where we see more women earning their own multi-million billionaire statuses, right? I'm hoping that we see them, and it doesn't have to be women, but I'm just saying that, like, this is a positive trend of you seeing more women joining the billionaire status. Hopefully we see them start investing in their sports teams, as men have traditionally, invested in men's sports. So you have a lot of owners in this league who are women, not enough, right? It's a women's football league. You should expect more women ownership. You should expect more women's leadership in it. Obviously, it's good that the overall leader of the league is a female, but we just more female coaches, more female executives. Those things are needed, but I think that comes with time. Unfortunately, it's also not the easy solution, as we just saw with Orlando's situation.
Mm-hmm.
Bad people are bad people. It doesn't matter their gender,
right?
Unfortunately, but I think that will ultimately continue to help the league grow. We need more Michelle Kanes and fewer Merritt Paulsons.
Amen. What are your viewing habits today? What are you going to be doing as you're watching the match?
Well, unfortunately, I have a work meeting at 2:30 this afternoon. So I will be. I'm hoping that it's canceled. We'll see. I might put that in our chat. Like, so are we meeting today or no? Because who knows who on my team is actually working today. But as soon as that is over, I'll be watching that game. Obviously, we have the Braves starting at 1. So if you want to go down to Fido, if you want to go down to Fido, watch with AO Atlanta. We'll have obviously the Braves game on at 1, the women's game on at 2:30, and we'll have a few people there watching both. Obviously, both are very important, so I get it. But I unfortunately will be stuck at home having to watch on this TV behind me while I work, because that's just what my life is like today.
Yeah,
they didn't ask me when they scheduled these friendlies.
It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
At Bartimus Prime 19 at Soccer for USPOD. Bart, we will catch up with you tomorrow to get your postmortems on Braves and on the match and anything else on your mind, because we got plenty to talk about.
Well, we'll talk about women's national team. We can talk a little bit Atlanta United as well tomorrow, because I think I have an opinion on what needs to be fixed.
I know you have an opinion on what needs
But yeah, I mean, so I'll reiterate again, though, today. NWSL is on CBS Sports Network this weekend. So if you have the chance, go watch it. Yeah, Atlanta United press are going on now, so I'm going to try to catch that on YouTube later. But the best way to make the women's game grow in the United States is to watch it when it's on TV, watch it when it's on Paramount Plus. I'm sure everyone here subscribes to Paramount Plus for UEFA Champions League, Europa League, Europa Conference League,
Serie A,
Argentina. Yeah. So the NWSL is also on there, and give that a watch. You'll learn a lot more about the game as a whole, and it's a good way to support NWSL and by proxy the U.S. Women's National Team. So
what he said. So Bart, go work so you don't have to work starting at 1:00.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I worked really late last night, so maybe not intentionally, but just like kind of got my ADD follow the serotonin. You know,
you kind of stacked your hours. You front loaded your hours.
It's
like, look, I front loaded all my hours this week. I stayed up last night to do so I don't have to invest as much today because I front loaded them yesterday.
Right. And now I'm gonna be in the office tomorrow, so I'll be like, oh, but I was in the office this week. So
exactly right. All right, but we'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Y'all be good.